They're not votes.
Yeah, but you'll have to get the code for the women's, I'm not sure what it is.
What's the closer to one of the
I don't know. I'm sorry. All of them know. 6 years, I can't remember. I can't remember.
First out, most numbers resolutions you've ever had.
Minute, folks, and we'll get ready to roll here. No, nobody wants to start any earlier. Okay, welcome everybody to the April 28th, 2024 regular council meeting of the town of DePaul. As always, we would always like to start off in a good way, acknowledging that tonight we're gathered on Treaty 5 territory. That's the traditional and ancestral lands of the Opaskwayak Cree Nation, or our neighbors, as well as many other Indigenous people, and as well as the homeland of the Red River Métis. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. Just a real quick attendance check. Councillor Forster is sent his regrets, and Councillor Commodore has sent her regrets. She's on vacation, so we're hoping that she's having a great time where she's vacationing. Somebody should have a resolution to adopt the agenda.
I have one addition to the agenda, if there's no objections, and it's would be resolution 2025-077 with regards to the variance meeting we just had.
Yep.
That'd be a resolution coming forward. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Allen, that the agenda be adopted as amended.
Any questions or concerns with the agenda as amended? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Somebody should have a resolution to confirmation of the minutes. Lots of them.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Allen, resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 24th, public hearings of April 7th, 8th, and special meeting April 8th and 9th be hereby approved. All statutory declarations have been complied with.
Any comments or concerns with the minutes?
Just had one
Yep.
on hearing 03. It says in the minutes that there were no questions asked. There was one question, that being that I wanted to make sure that the building permit was included with the application because it wasn't part of the package, just for the state of record to make sure that the process was complete and closed off with the building permit.
Perfect, we'll make that note, added there. Okay, if there's no further questions, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recognition, I know I've got a couple of things here today. First off, with regards to the tragic incident in Vancouver over the last couple of days ago. I'm sure I speak on behalf of our entire community. We extend our deepest condolences to the Filipino community out in Vancouver and all those that have been potentially impacted by this tragic event. And our thoughts and prayers are with you during this very troubling and heartbreaking time. I would also like to recognize today is a National Day of Mourning as we remember and honor all the workers that have been harmed in the workplace. And renew our pledge as a community to continue to prioritize safety and all the activities around preventing injuries and accidents from happening, so. There's I have a few other ones if somebody else wants to go first though. And,
Keep going.
well, I also would like to recognize Kevin Isles. I know the fire department had recognized him for his tireless commitment to our community for many, many, many years. And I would also like to recognize the chamber and UCN for the great work on the election debate evening. And I also seen that the Bear Clan is reactivated in our community, so it's a welcome addition back to the community, and it's great to see them out and about, and appreciate all the support that they provide to all of the members of our community. It's been a long time since we had a meeting, so we had a lot of stuff to talk about. Anything that I missed? Anyone?
It's been that long.
Oh, the
Yeah,
Storm,
it's
yeah.
been that long
They
since
had
we've got.
They won their championship, league championships, the Storm, the KJHL, great accomplishment by the local group of guys. They traveled out to Calgary. I have never seen a hockey schedule, that they came across than they did, playing 3 games in less than 24 hours. But, from my understanding, they represented our province and our area, very well, and congratulate them on that. And I guess we're all talking about the hockey front. We've got the OCM Blizzard, I still call it the Northern Manitoba Blizzard in the playoffs right now, going head to head with the Dauphin Kings. So games tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, game number 5 or 6.
6.
So OCN or the Blizzard are leading right now, 3 games to 2. So we wish them all the luck.
And the fire chief is here, so you can send the jersey down there for the fire chief and off, come get fitted for it.
Do we have anything else on that? Okay, seeing nothing. Next up, citizen period. We have a presentation from Mr. James Wigley. You don't mind, just introduce yourself and your title, and we'll pass it over to you.
Perfect, thank you, yeah. Do you want me to have a seat?
Sure.
So, yeah, James Wigley, thank you for inviting me here today. So I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Canadian Mental Health Association, Swan Valley branch, Parkland, the Paw region, as well as for Portage La Prairie here in Manitoba. So I appreciate you allowing us to come and share a bit about CMHA and then my understanding to answer some questions about our services here, and then just have some general conversation around some of the challenges and stuff that's been experienced here in the PAW as it relates to houselessness. So I've prepared a bit of a presentation. It's just a quick overview about CMHA. I've also included some services that we run in other parts of our region that have a direct link to housing and the houselessness work that we do across our region. So I've included that too, just to spark a bit of discussion when we get to that point. We'll just move to the next. Thank you.
I don't know, can everybody hear James, because this room is terrible acoustics, so
Yeah, okay.
you're guys.
I know I could kind of offer from the back here. So I know a land acknowledgement was done, but I just always like to start with a land acknowledgement for us as CMHA Swan Valley branch. So we acknowledge that we are primarily located on Treaty 4 territory, and land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Assiniboine, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. Our work extends throughout Treaties 2 and 5. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and dedicate ourselves to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. So our organizational purpose. for those who maybe aren't familiar with Canadian Mental Health Association. So we are a nationwide voluntary nonprofit organization that promotes mental health of all and supports the resilience and recovery of people experiencing mental illness. So CMHA Swan Valley branch accomplishes this by providing quality programming and services to Manitobans living within the Parkland region, as well as the community and surrounding area of the Pod and Portage Prairie within the province of Manitoba. Over the past few years, CMHAs across Manitoba have started to work more collaboratively together and just recently have completed working on a provincial-wide strategic plan. So that started, our plan got initiated in 2022. So we're at the midway point of that currently. But that is to guide all of CMHAs across Manitoba and how we work to achieve our new mission and vision statements and to deliver the quality programming and services that Manitobans need and want. And so I'll go through some of that a little bit more later. We can go into the next. So again, just kind of talking a bit about what we offer throughout our region. So we provide both service in person and virtually across a variety of different programs. Focuses to Manitobans living within the Parkland region as well as the community and surrounding area of the Paw. Through some of our programs and services, such as the HOPE, which stands for Helping Others Through Peer Education Learning Center. That's built on the principles and foundation of the Recovery College. We provide programming to services to Manitobans across the province as well as to Canadians throughout our country. And just a note there, so historically, we've been CMHA Parkland in the Paw region, legally dubbed CMHA Swan Valley branch. In November of 2024, we did finalize the official dissolution of CMHA Central, which was for the Southern Health regional boundaries, and that came under our umbrella, which is why we have an office now in Portage la Prairie providing services to the Southern Health region. So a little bit on our services here first and foremost. So the largest service, of course, that we offer here is Oscar's Place. I think most are going to be familiar with that. So that's the community's what was overnight emergency shelter. So we officially took on administrative oversight for Oscar's Place in 2021, and we actually started providing services in here in the Paw through that in November of 2021. So that was a 26-person overnight shelter for adults aged 18 plus and started from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. 365 days a year. We introduced daytime operations in January of 2024 and started that from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It started Monday to Friday, and then we moved by the end of February. We had included weekends as well as we were building staff team. And in October of 2024, we were approved through an additional funding stream that we were successful in getting to have true 24/7 operations. And it took us a couple of months to actually get the staff team hired for that and trained. And in December of 2024, we opened up as a 24/7 model, operating at 365 days a year. So our operations through Oscar's Place, we have 17 staff members total. Yeah.
James, can we ask questions anytime we go along?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, yeah.
So when you say you're open 24/7, 365, Is that mean the doors are open that entire time, or is there any period of time that they're closed for cleaning or anything?
Yeah, so a couple of times each week, because staff clean throughout their shifts. But a couple of times each week, we close for anywhere between a half an hour to an hour to do a deep clean. It's just easier when there's not people in there to obviously do some of that. And so we do that twice a week.
Okay.
Otherwise, we are open for 24/7.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So yes, we have a staff team of 17. Over the course of the April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025 fiscal year, so the one that just ended, we saw over 200 unique individuals access that site for service and for care. So a unique individual would be all of us in this room are counted as each as a unique individual. And across those over 200 unique individuals, we saw over 21,104 service interactions
In a year.
in that year. Yeah.
And when you talk about the service that you provide, and I don't know if you're gonna cover this, so does this mean there could be people that maybe are intoxicated?
Absolutely. So our funding agreement with the province of Manitoba, when we took on Oscar's Place in 2021, it's deemed a wet, what they consider a wet shelter, which means that individuals are allowed to be intoxicated and still receive service and access the services there. So our policies are more built around behavioral components rather than if you're intoxicated, you're not allowed to enter. There are what they consider dry shelters in the province, but again, Oscar's Place is not one of those. And so long as somebody is being respectful and abiding by the rules and guidelines that we have for the site, they are more than welcome to be in the location and accessing service while under the influence.
Yeah. So the wet shelter doesn't mean that they can bring alcohol inside the building and.
No, so we introduced a locker system when we went to 24/7. And or actually, I should say, when we went originally for daytime services, we introduced a locker system. And so when individuals come in, they're given an individual locker and they sign out a locker and they have to store their personal belongings in there. So one of the rules we have is that individuals can't have their bags on them in the shelter. That's to mitigate, things like substance use from happening at the site, or, if somebody has potential objects that could be utilized as weapons or what have you. People have access to their locker at any time, so they just have to ask staff to access, but they're not allowed to actually take anything past where the lockers are. And so when we did that, people are allowed to come in and store their alcohol in their locker, but it's up to them to make that decision. Staff don't hold that kind of thing for them. Previously to that, it was basically if somebody presented to Oscar's Place, say they had, a bottle on them and it was only half empty, then they had to make the choice to either stash that bottle somewhere else or to dump it before they were allowed to come in. And what we were seeing is, individuals don't want to do either of those things. And so they were choosing not to access Oscar's Place and then being out in the community instead. And so we brought the lockers in to try and support people actually accessing the site and hopefully help out individuals wandering around the community a little bit.
Or they could go outside, realistically consume the alcohol and come back.
And come back in more intoxicated throughout the night of the shift. We were seeing that as well. Whereas this way it's capped. And we have a rule in place that people are allowed to go out, people can go out to have a smoke or something like that. And we are heavily cameraed out with video surveillance at Oscar's Place. So we have around the building and throughout the building views, and somebody always in the security office watching. And so we have seen that the leaving to come back more intoxicated each time has lessened with having the locker system in place.
I wasn't aware we were going to be asking questions as we go along. All the way here done. I have a number of questions all the way to the presentation.
Absolutely.
Has there been any incidents of violence since you went to that?
It's always been wet. So it was never us who went to that, right? It was always wet. Yeah, absolutely. We have absolutely had challenges. We have absolutely experienced some situations of aggression and violence. I think that comes up with the territory, right? With having that potential component. I was just going to speak to the partnership. So since we've been able to form better relationships and partners with some of our community ties, such as the community safety officer program and our partnership with the town through that, and our expanded and strengthened partnership with RCMP, we're seeing less of that kind of thing happen. We've also increased our own policies within the site. So, we have metal detector ones now for staff to utilize, and just some added pieces to support safety, right? Not just for our staff, but for the other clientele that are accessing the space.
And just another question. Oscar's Place has inside.
Yes.
Are you guys, using those rooms or?
No, not currently. So our safety risk, so when we did our initial assessment for Oscar's Place as CMHA and to, you know, determine what the safety may be or where it may be. Those outside rooms were definitely flagged. They require, all but two, which have been opened up to the main hall, require staff to go outside of the building and enter in that side, and we don't have surveillance systems in those rooms. So that of course increases anytime staff have to exit the location to provide service, that increases the risk, right? And so we do not utilize those rooms. I'm in conversation with Manitoba Housing and have been for a while. So Manitoba Housing owns that location, like it's their building, and CMHA are funded to provide the service. And so I have been in conversation with Manitoba Housing for a while now about opening those rooms to the inside of the hall, actually taking some of them completely out to make the hall a little bit bigger, and especially for daytime operations, and then opening other ones up, both for added capacity for at night, but also for space for other services to access and provide their services. Oscar's Place is pretty small, and we only have 2 offices, and one of those offices is used as a storage room for the large part for clothing and all that kind of stuff. And so it really isn't conducive to proper wraparound service site, right? So.
Stand up Oscar's Place was involved. We had meetings with David, we had meetings with Manitoba Housing. They weren't too interested in doing any work there.
Yeah, so I would say probably within the last year, there's a lot more interest on their end to see that location be better utilized. If you actually look at the floor plans of Oscar's Place, there's at least half of the building that's not being used because of it. And so if we could better utilize and make that building more conducive to the type of programming we're supposed to be providing over there, then it would be a much better site. Yeah. And so, yeah, I just wanted to speak a bit about the partnership. So, you know, we have seen, especially since going to 24/7, our ability to build and strengthen our partnerships. So MHRN, which is Manitoba Harm Reduction Network, we have a partnership with them, Northern Health through public health, primary health, mental health, primarily in the community addictions programming, PAW Friendship Center, of course. Employment and income assistance in Manitoba Housing, to name a few. And again, since bringing on the community safety officer program, that has been instrumental in our efforts to continue to work with individuals, especially those who are under the influence. So community safety officers will stop in throughout their shifts and just to check out how things are going. And that's been a huge help to the staff to try and keep some order at times.
Good.
So just going into a few of the other programs that we offer, and this might be able to move into some of that discussion around, you know, what could we see as CMHA in the PAW, or what could the PAW see for supports and programming as it relates to housing and houselessness. And so we offer what's called the ECHO housing program, and that's in Dauphin and Swan River. And so that stands for Emergency Community Housing Opportunities. And so we have 4 buildings total. 2 of them, which is our ECHO 1 in Dauphin and 2 in Swan River, are affordable long-term apartment buildings. They operate just like any other apartment complex would. For individuals primarily that have mental health challenges or mental illness. And then we have support staff on site Monday to Friday from 8:30 to 4:30. So while it is independent living, we are funded to provide some supports in those complexes. So in total, we have 38 affordable long-term apartments. They range from studio 1-bed to 2-bed units. And then we also have 5 what we refer to as short-term stay units. And that's really our version, if you will, of helping or trying to help address the homelessness challenges in Dauphin and Swan River because there isn't a shelter. And until recently, there was really no place to go overnight. Manitoba Métis Federation, so MMF, have opened up Safe and Warms sites in Dauphin. They've been running for almost 2 years now, and Swan River it's just opened. But so those are independent units, but they're primarily to address those who are houseless and requiring short-term stay.
So I was gonna leave my questions to the end, but it ties right into it.
Yeah.
Just from our previous conversation. So the outdoor units that you're not using currently, could those not be a bit of a bridge into independent living? In other words, someone that you could possibly trust or get on again, because I know some of the standards of having an emergency shelter is if you're here for more than a week, you need to take initiatives to find them permanent housing. Could that not be a bridge to kind of, I don't want to say circumvent the rules, but to follow the standard where you're trying to teach people to live independently or you're not truly independent? Would that
So
not be an opportunity?
that was, my understanding is that was the idea when that location was first built
It was.
from,
Yeah, there were 4 transitional housing.
yeah, so there was 10 rooms total on the outside. My experience with housing and homeless or houseless work over the last 7 years that I've been with CMHA. It's quite honestly, it doesn't really work to place the two at the same site. We see more challenge having individuals who are ready to take that next step being housed in the same location as those who are not than anything, quite honestly. And I mean, it's not to say that that couldn't be done. It's just, it becomes a very different program when that happens. And we've tried and attempted that in other areas, just like with our units within the ECHO, and we have not succeeded every time. And so it's really, it really does come down to like housing comes down to readiness, and the baseline that emergency shelter serves and that next step serves are very different.
And that's probably, we don't have that next step available in the
Absolutely.
community at all, right? So I thought
100%.
even if you have a failure rate of 90%, you still succeeded 10% of the time, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way I kind of
Yeah,
look at
But-
that picture.
yeah, and so again, I have not done that here in the PAW because those rooms were not able to, because the other thing is, those rooms require quite a bit of renovation to actually be utilized. And so when we took on Oscar's Place in 2021, in September, the shelter actually had to close for 2 months while Manitoba Housing did significant repairs just to the main component. Because when I did my initial walkthrough, I couldn't place staff in that working environment. And so those outside rooms are in pretty poor shape as well. So there definitely would take some work. I think the community, if I'm being fully honest, the community would be a lot better to advocate for that next step being built within the community rather than trying to change the service of the current location. And that's just my own personal opinion on it. The other component of the ECHO program is our transitional housing program. And so again, 1 building in Swan and 1 in Dauphin. So we have a total of 22 transitional units. So those are all studio. Individuals live in them up to 3 years while they connect to additional services, while we work with them to determine what their service plans should be, individualized service plans through a model of rehabilitation. And work with them to, you know, that goal setting and then connecting to whatever they might need to be successful with living. And so we've got that. And in addition to that, we also have an additional 6 short-term stay. And again, that was our original plan to help combat some of the challenges in those communities through the houselessness component. Those units are actively used on a regular basis, the short-term stay, but given that they are placed in a building like an Echo, we have to be very, very careful on who we're able to let into those units and what that looks like, because we don't have 24/7 staff in those locations. Yeah, we can probably move on. And then this takes me to the next one, which I know Mayor Murphy and I have had some conversations around this project, and this project has gotten quite a bit of media attention over the last couple of months. And so one of the things that we've done as CMHA Swan Valley is we were fortunate enough to apply for and receive funding to implement the Community Housing with Supports program. And so that's a core service that we're building with CMHA across Manitoba. And so that program actually originated out of Winnipeg, and it's a housing first program. And so the whole idea behind that is to support individuals to choose, get, and keep their housing. But the difference, and that's housing first philosophy, the foundational components of housing first. But the difference with our Community Housing with Supports program is really the focus on that keep component of housing. And so we ensure that when we do that, we do a full wraparound service model of care. And so it's not just, you know, giving people business cards or contact numbers of places they need to go. It's actually connecting them with our own internal services that we've built up, so that it's additional CMHA resources going towards supporting that individual. And then of course, connecting them to community-based services and resources where we don't have. But we have seen, so that's a very new program for us. So last fiscal year was our first year with that as a region, and where Housing First projections are trying to get to about a 67% success rate with housing. After 6 months, we have been able to obtain anywhere between an 87 and a 93% success rate with our Community Housing with Supports.
So success rates
program.
aside, James, how many people on average?
Have we been able to support?
Yes.
Yeah, so in between Swan River and Dauphin,
No, just for the,
for the pod, we don't have CHS here in the pod.
don't have.
No, that's something, so when we went and applied for funding, we applied for Swan River and Dauphin because I had been told that other agencies were applying for that funding for here in the pod. And so we didn't, and then when we were awarded the funding, the funder asked why we didn't apply for the pod. So I had explained to them because we
Okay.
were told that other agencies were going to, and they said they got 0 applications for the pod, which is really unfortunate. And so one of the advocacy components that I've been doing over the last year was to actually implement CHS in both the pod and our Portage Prairie communities. And so the piece behind this that I really want to focus on, and this is the component that Mayor Murphy and I have had conversations on, is our Parkview Lodge project in Dauphin. And so there's 2 sites right now in the province that have been kind of piloted for this wraparound service hub model for in-housing, and that was in Dauphin and then at 444 Kennedy in Winnipeg, CMHA being involved in both. And so and helping to lead both, I should say. And so in Dauphin, we actually have our Community Housing with Supports team based at Parkview Lodge location, which is a Manitoba Housing owned building. They were seeing high rates of vacancy. And so they created what the community of Dauphin came together and created what's called the Housing Foundations Committee. And basically what that was is having all kinds of services come together and really looking at, you know, bringing the services to the individuals that need, rather than having the individuals that need go to the services. Because we know as soon as they leave our doors, we probably lose them 9 out of 10 times by the time they're supposed to, you know, before they may get to point B. And so when we were successful with the CHS program for Dauphin, we came into the picture with the Housing Foundations. And so we've placed that team in that location. So that's a static team that's always in the Parkview Lodge. So the Housing Foundations, or the Parkview Lodge project, has 20 units. And we have a partnership for some of our spaces with Prairie Mountain Health for FACT, which is the Flexible Assertive Community Treatment Program. And so we actually work in partnership with some of those external agencies and those partners to provide intensive case management supports to individuals that are living in Parkview Lodge that would normally not be successful in housing elsewhere. And actually, there's a couple of folks that we have placed in Parkview Lodge and that we're working with. Again, not just us necessarily, but the whole wraparound service model. And it's the first time that those individuals have ever been successful in actually keeping housing. And so, I mean, those are individuals that have now been housed for over a year successfully, that have never been successfully housed before. And so I think that again speaks to that success of that true wraparound service. And so I have said time and time again that there are, like, Manitoba Housing is across the province. And I know various communities have different vacancy rates, but I've yet to visit a community as I travel throughout this province for work that doesn't have some form of vacancy rate through Manitoba Housing. And so I think if it's working as well as it is in the rural area and in Winnipeg, through Dauphin and 444 Kennedy, then there's no reason why we can't be advocating to see this program replicated across the province. And so when I'm talking about, you know, where can we go potentially as CMHA in partnership with the various agencies in this community, as well as, you know, partnership with the tri-community councils and Reeves, mayor and chief, I do believe that this is one of the places that we really should be putting effort.
Is there a timeline on how long someone can stay?
Yeah, Parkview Lodge.
Yes.
So to be part of the project, the idea is that within 2 years, we would hope that somebody is able to live independently. But the idea behind that is it doesn't mean that they necessarily have to leave that complex. Now, that's for Parkview Lodge because they have such a high vacancy rate. So there's lots of empty units, right? And so if somebody after 2 years or after 6 months or whatever they need, no longer requires that intensive support, we would keep them in their unit and we would have attached somebody to a different vacant unit. Now, if you're working in a community that doesn't have that luxury, then obviously then you do need those other places. And I know that's, again, another issue, right? Because affordable housing is a issue.
Just a few questions, James.
Yeah.
I'm saying this all with respect. I have lots of empathy for the people on the streets. 20-some years ago, I was instrumental helping with the community chaplaincy program, which did a lot of this. I'm not interested in what's going on in Dauphin, Winnipeg, or Swan River. Wanted you here tonight to tell us about your successes here in the fall, what you're doing. You've got 17 staff. I'd like some stats on real person-client interaction that you've actually said, we've taken these people, they're
And have
out
housed
on the
them.
street anymore. The fact that it's a wet housing, I fully disagree with that, my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
You're treating people for addictions and other mental health issues. Alcohol shouldn't be in that equation at all. I just ran out of questions here. Just every time you brought something up, you're talking about the Swan River and what's happening there in partnerships. What services are offered here to the clients that we see every day on the street? What would happen if June, July, and August we close, save some money, get your program, fix up your building? Nobody's going to freeze to death. How many residents at Oscar's Place are from town of Guelph? I know the last meeting, a bunch of questions. I know the last meeting we talked about this when OCN was looking at opening up a temporary one here. It was voted no by council because we have concerns from businesses in the area because of what happens. OCN, you know what their concern was? Their residents, their homeless people don't want to go to Oscar's Place. Quote the chief, it's too dangerous.
Which is
so they have their
interesting.
own
Yeah.
safe place.
Yeah.
I just don't know what's happening there that's helping the people on the street, addressing our concerns. And we've hired community officers here to assist the police with this, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, I have seen no improvement. If anything, it's getting worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll fully agree with you in the
So
sense
what do
that
you-
I
what are
think
you
it's
doing
getting
locally?
worse as well.
What are you doing
Um,
here to address that?
Yeah, so what we're funded to do here through Oscar's Place is exactly what we're doing. We're to provide a safe space for people to go during the cold or during the heat, right? That's 24/7. That allows them to be able to go safely to sleep. We provide meals. We provide basic hygiene products. We have the showers, the public washrooms. We have laundry facilities. We do, through the day, we do service connections. So we have the homeless outreach mentorship program. And so the idea behind that program is to really connect people to various services that exist within the community that they might need. So that's where those partnerships come up with Manitoba Housing, employment and income assistance, with community addictions, with MHRN, with all those kinds of things. And so quite frankly, how's it going? Well, we've had some success. I won't lie about that.
Okay.
But until, and the reason why I'm sharing what other communities are starting to do is because quite frankly, out of the communities that we're working in, the PAW doesn't have the next step. And so until the PAW gets the next step, you guys aren't going to see more success. We have been able to secure some of our clientele that had been using Oscar's Place with housing. And we've been able to do that successfully with a partnership through Manitoba Housing. And so that's been here both in the PAW and in other communities
But
that
to get to the
Manitoba
next,
Housing has.
get to the next step, your clients have to be ready for that. What
Absolutely.
services, what's the incentive for them to do that? Like mental health, it's,
Voluntary addictions treatment is voluntary. All of it is voluntary. There's not one, we as CMHA cannot come in there and say, you need to be doing this. You have to be doing that, right? We can provide, so basically anytime somebody comes through our doors, the idea behind that is that we're always, and staff do this every time. And I know staff do this daily because I see it every time I come up here. They sit down with the folks that are accessing Oscar's Place, even if it's just for a warm meal. And they're saying, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about treatment?
trying to
Is that
encourage-
any, exactly, because that's really all we can
but I
do.
guess until they have, you know, I won't use the phrase hit rock bottom, because some of them are probably there now. They're on the street, but, you have a place to go, whether you're sober or drunk. You have meals, and they seem to have money. And it's just, I wouldn't want to be in that life. I'm sure they don't want to be there either.
I don't think
At the end of the
anybody
day,
wakes up one day and
I don't
thinks that
believe-
that's the life they want to be in.
I don't believe Oscar's Place right now is being successful enough to address the concerns of the community and for the individuals that are having the hardships on the streets.
So I guess the piece that I would put back on that is, you know, if Oscar's Place didn't exist, and I can tell you right from experience in other communities that I live in and that we work in, regardless if there's a shelter or not, we are battling
Oh, yeah.
unbelievable amounts of challenges in relation to houselessness. And so our fear in communities that don't have a site like Oscar's Place, and I get that there will be people that are for it and people that are against it. It's no different than anything else that you put out there. The difference is that I'm less concerned of somebody than I am in some of the communities that don't have anywhere for somebody to go. Often in Swan River for bringing in the safe and warm.
That's why I
Space.
made the suggestion, maybe June, July and August, give your staff a break, see what happens.
Well, we gave a break when we first took over and not a single person left. And when we opened up, we were actually at full capacity and turning away
Like you can house 26.
26 individuals a night.
Is there occasions where you have more than 26?
Absolutely.
You read the standards of an emergency shelter standards We don't have an act, only standards in the province.
Yes,
Is the shelter reaching those standards?
as far as what we are, so for the standards that we're funded under, like which are the
No,
same standards as
by the
our
standards,
service
not by the
purchase
funding,
agreement.
And we have,
Then
we don't have we don't have that second level, which
No, you
means
don't.
technically we're failing by not being able to offer those services. Even though you consider, again, I'm gonna say the quiet part aloud, the shelter should not be open. Right, again, I don't wanna see
that's
anybody.
your opinion,
I don't-
absolutely.
No, based on
Yeah.
the standard.
You know what, the other thing is you have to keep in mind, so those standards, and I don't get me wrong, in that those standards need to be upheld. In my opinion, again, and I'm gonna speak for me personally. You can't discredit a service when some of those standards come into play, when there doesn't, the other components don't exist. And so while I totally agree with you from that, like you said, 1 week, right? So typically speaking, if somebody is staying at a shelter for 1 week, the standard would state that we're actually now working with this for a specific purpose. So that we're not, so that people aren't living in shelters. That's the bottom line behind that standard. If the housing doesn't actually exist, or if the housing that does it takes weeks and weeks and weeks to get in, success with getting people into housing that are absolutely ready to be in housing, but these are longer before we're really hearing back. So I will be the first to say 100% agree, every single standard is being met in the pot. The standards that aren't is because the actual infrastructure isn't there to support those things.
So
to
we
be
kind of
met.
put the horse before the cart is, and that's what I'm kind of getting at. And again, I've been in the world,
Mhm.
I used to do Mike's job. I
Yeah.
used to meet and try to develop those relations with the people
Yeah.
on the street and understand. Our community that I
Yeah.
know Councillor Hopper would have worked closely with his program. As I grew up in this community, other than university, I've always lived here, and there's a huge growth in the population that is
Oh, yeah.
in our community, right?
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
not just because of downtrodden places or the mill is shut down and people are out of work. It's because they choose to come here because we are supporting them by meeting a couple of standards.
And
I
so
think just
I
to
think
jump in here for a
oh, sorry,
second.
yeah.
James, so I think it's very clear though, and I think what James has been saying too, is that there is a major gap in the service requirement that we really need if we were going to put together an exact program with having the wraparound support services that are there. The work that's being done today is sort of like a Band-Aid approach because we just don't have the actual resource commitment which the federal and the provincial governments have to bring forward to support us, support it with. So, I think that's what you're trying to come across and saying as well, right?
Yes, to an extent, absolutely. And I also want to make it very clear that when you say that we're not meeting standards, we're not meeting certain components to allow for next step standards.
And that's. what
All
he
other
corrected.
standards are being met by Oscar's Place. I want that to be very clear, because we work very, very hard to ensure
And again,
that
in
the
no
service
way
that
am I
we're
taking anything away
providing
from the efforts.
upholds
Yeah.
exactly what is intended
But
to
the
do so.
purpose of that shelter is to find people permanent housing.
The
after
purpose of
1
the
week,
shelter,
And to provide all the options that we don't
Yeah.
have, right? You can
and so the
say,
PAW,
here's a,
Oscar's Place in the PAW, the purpose of the shelter, because there's not that second step, and I'll be very honest, this is exactly from the province themselves, right? Because they know what's going on here too. When we came in 2021, the purpose of the shelter here in the PAW is to keep people off the streets. It's to keep people safe if it's -40. And the daytime component is to keep people safe if it's +40, because we see just as much harm in +40
yeah,
as we do in
and I agree with that
-40, right?
premise of it. But at
And
the end
so
of the
that's
day,
the
we brought
idea.
people here now because of that operation, and we kind of shot ourselves in the foot.
Can I just intervene here, guys? So this has been going on for, we've been talking, like, and this is
Yeah.
really just to be a bit of a presentation, and I think this is a great discussion. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna let you finish, Jamie, but I just wanna make sure that we start thinking about the end here and wrapping up, because
no, I
think
appreciate
that
that.
I think there's a good conversation that we could have, with, other parties in the room, such as, I know, my friend from the RM is here, and I'm sure he has some questions and comments. And then our friend Doug from the Friendship Center and such, so. But yeah, so I'll just pass that over to you, keeping in mind
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And so the other component that I'd say is too, is like, I want it known, like, I welcome this type of discussion, because in my opinion, if we're not having these discussions, then we're not actually working towards any kind of change. And so I'll be the first to say, I've thought this, many times. The homeless or the houseless challenges that we're experiencing are a direct product of root causes, such as substance use disorders, undiagnosed or untreated mental health and mental illnesses, long lasting or extending trauma, be that firsthand or intergenerational, and the list goes on and on and on. And so when we're talking about homelessness and houselessness, it's not just, okay, and I hope it doesn't come across with what I brought forward with the potentials that the PAW could see as next steps. It's not just providing a roof for somebody. That doesn't solve houselessness. It doesn't solve homelessness. And that's why I keep going back to that wraparound service model. If that's not attached, and if that's not a component of every housing program we implement, or the province implements, or whoever implements in this province and beyond, to try and combat the challenges that houselessness or homelessness is affecting, then we will never be successful. And that has to be said out loud, because it's the truth, it's the fact. And the only reason that we have the success rates in our other programs that we have is because we haven't implemented anything more until that piece is at the table and being agreed upon. And so, as far as Oscar's Place goes in the PAW here, we have a staff team, like you said, of 17, and it's a staff team of 17 to ensure that those doors can be open 24/7. Because we have to have 2 people on at all times, and we have to have float staff, and we have to have. So yes, we do have quite a few. Those who are working during the daytime shifts spend most of their days connecting with other services to ensure that people can connect, bringing other services in, taking people to those other services. Because like I said, if we say, oh, well, go across to EIA, which is right across the street, we can lose them as soon as they leave our doors. So if we don't have that wraparound component, then again, we're not doing anybody any kind of justice, right? Or any kind of service. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right in that sense. But as far as what Oscar's Place has the capacity to actually achieve here in the PAW right now, we're checking those boxes. We're hitting those marks because we are seeing success with people as we can, as the community allows it to happen, given its infrastructure and its capacity. And we're keeping people off the street in -40 and +40. We're giving people access to showers, to washrooms, to laundry, to health services, to services like harm reduction, what have you, and to basic social determinants of like food security. and that sort of thing. And that's literally all we can achieve at this time. And so until we can build more infrastructure as the community, that is what we'll be able to achieve.
Well, we appreciate, unless, I don't think there's any other questions, but we do appreciate you coming, to visit us today, James, unless you had something more that you needed to wrap up. I think this is a continued conversation that we need to
Absolutely.
have. We would appreciate if, maybe more regular check-ins with us, because as we all know, if there's things that we can advocate, not only as the community of the town of the Pas, but we get our friends from OCN, we get our friends from the RM. And, when we're in front of ministers, if we understand what the gaps are and we understand what the needs are, then it's easier for us to sort of advocate as communities, knowing that we need that. We heard about food insecurities, a couple of weeks ago at a session we were with regards to other northern communities, that being Snow Lake, Plum Lawn, Port Thompson, and, our Grand Rapids and Mount Lake. And it's very clear that that's another big concern that's going on within the north. That's not really getting a lot of press, I would say. And so I know that our friend at the Friendship Center is doing a lot of good work behind the scenes, and we need to kind of keep moving.
Well, and I think I'll just end on that as another component, just in regards to Oscar's Place. So while we're a 26-person shelter overnight, like I said, during the day we can have upwards of 80 people come through Oscar's Place. During the night, while 26 might spend the night, we often serve supper to well over 40. Actually, most likely, or more closely to about 50. And some of those individuals are coming to Oscar's Place to access because they literally have no money at the end of the week to spend on groceries. Their rent has taken everything, the utilities, that sort of thing, and they literally have nothing, no food in their cupboards. And so, again, houselessness and homelessness is often the outcome of other components of root causes, and it's addressing those root causes that is actually going to see any kind of shift or change.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I look forward to further conversations, and then if we can connect you with others, then we'll do that.
Absolutely, thank you.
And also, just when there is an opportunity for grants, maybe let us know there's any way the council can support instead of missing opportunity like community housing or support. So something like that.
Yes, will do.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. Okay, moving on. We did have a letter that was under this issue from the RM. I don't know if you wanted to talk to any of that. No. So I guess as we received it as information, there is obviously concerns with other businesses and others around the community with regards to the amount of activity downtown. I know our CSOs are doing the best we can. I know the RCMP is spending as much time as we can downtown, but I think that as the community, our community is doing everything we can to ensure that people don't have to lock their doors downtown.
And I think just for clarification, since we were told about this afternoon, that this letter is not actually from the RM.
Yeah.
It is from someone who works there,
Yeah.
so it's, even though it's not an RM letterhead, it's not actually from the RM.
Okay, moving along here. Did you have, sorry, was there any other discussions from citizens and citizen peers? Did you have anything? No? Okay,
You're just bored, you want something exciting to do?
No.
I have a question, but I'll ask someone they're done.
okay, moving along, bylaws. Public Utility Board rate increase. I think that's where we're at.
Resolution number 2025-064, moved by myself, second by Councillor Hopper. Resolved that bylaw number 4632 being a bylaw of the town of the Pas to establish water and sewer rates as amended by BO 4425 and to repeal bylaw number 4550 be read a second time.
So this is the adjustment to our water rates that hadn't been adjusted in a long time, helps cover the cost of the municipal lagoon project. Any questions? Seeing none, call the question all in favor? Opposed? None carried. That's the second reading.
Resolution number 2025-065, moved by myself, secondly, Councillor Atkinson, resolved that bylaw number 4632 being a bylaw of the town of La Pont to establish water and sewer rates as amended by Pub BO 4425 and to repeal bylaw number 4550 be read a third time and be passed.
Same resolution. This is the third reading. This is the recorded vote, so, myself, I am a yes. I'll call the question. Everybody's good?
I just want to state one thing. I'm hoping that the increase will lead to, in support of our fire department, that we see more hydrants repaired with this increase, because it'll be extra money to run our water system. So less yellow tape and more working fire hydrants.
Yeah, and a key, I think that one of the things we gotta remember that major of that increase was due to pay for the debenture that is required to upgrade our lagoon at $4.5 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so, call the question. I'm in favor. Councillor Atkinson,
Aye.
Councillor Hopper.
Aye.
Councillor Forster is absent. Councillor Commodore is absent. Councillor Manich
Yes.
and Councillor Allen.
Aye.
That's 5-4-0, yes, carried. All right, that was easy. A couple more, bylaws.
Resolution number 2025-066, moved by myself, second by Councillor Atkinson, resolved that bylaw number 4656 being a bylaw of the town of La Pont to provide the regulation and control of animals within the limits of the town of La Pont and to repeal bylaw number 4635 be read a first time.
And, this is, just so everybody knows, this is the update, our existing bylaws. They haven't been looked at for many years. Really, the fee schedule is the majority of the change within these next few bylaws that you're hearing. So, the concept of what was in the bylaw already doesn't really change much, other than the fee schedule is now a separate fee schedule that gets updated separately annually so that it doesn't get lost. Okay, call the questions, all in favor? Opposed, seeing none, carried. Okay, somebody should have the business license bylaw.
Resolution number 2025-067, moved by myself, second by Councillor Atkinson, resolved that bylaw number 4657 being a bylaw of the town of La Pont to provide the licensing and regulation of businesses within the limits of the town of La Pont and to repeal bylaw number 4552 be read a first time.
Same story as the last one, just an update of the bylaw. Call the question, all in favor?
Hang on, I did have one concern going through the bylaw. There's some, what I would call overreach, I feel, and it puts us into a difficult position. Just as an example, business license for a restaurant, where we're gonna get into inspecting their health certificates and their food handling certificate. I feel we're getting into an area that we shouldn't be managing. It could open us up, because if we've now given a license, that means we've done our due diligence. If those licenses don't exist, we could be held at fault. We should be simply providing a license that gives you permission to operate a business. How you operate it falls into other headings. That's the only part I would.
Was that how the bylaw was always written?
Which section is talking about?
That is,
Under definition?
For the business?
it's under special provisions. And the one as an example of number 5, restaurants, where it says, prior to issuance of such a business license, a certificate of approval from the medical officer of health, certifying that the area which is safe to work in, as well as food handling. I just feel we're kind of encroaching now into a whole nother area that we don't have the bodies or the know-how to enforce.
Wouldn't this though, Councillor Manager, isn't this just saying that if you want to have a business license, you have to have these things in place before you come and give you a business license?
Yeah, and
It's
so
not about us. No, it's not about us doing anything, any follow-up. If you come and get a license for a restaurant, they're gonna say you're gonna need this, this, this. If you don't have it, you're not getting a business license.
Right, and if it expires, we're now negligent on our license, right? Because we're saying that your license is good, so I just feel that it should be a little more blanket of you've been given permission to operate a business. And the business of whatever it may be, in this case, a restaurant, needs to fall under those other headings, not our responsibility. Just because, again, we would be expecting our CSOs as the more obvious license inspectors to be going around ensuring compliance all the time. That would be a lot of work.
They
I'm
have to
concerned with.
meet up, this bylaw has been existent before, I want to be there, so the only thing that I think has to do with schedule,
Yeah.
but bringing this up would be useful. But for someone that open a restaurant, we only issue business license. The other regulation, inspection, go to the inspector, meet up with this, that's another.
Falls under. the
Yeah,
public
it
health
falls under
act.
that, but we're asking to see it. We're asking that it's a condition of us issuing a license.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's just me due diligence. It doesn't, I don't get different.
So I have to.
Ties. When they make their application, show us your credentials, like, you know,
Just like shows your insurance coverage document.
and if it expires, then they'll be on, I guess, health department.
Okay, so I don't know if we need to do anything. I think point noted though, like, that's what it is, but I'll call the question anyways. I'll call a question on this. All in favor? Opposed?
I'm gonna post it.
Yeah. Or carried.
I would just like to say too, that like.
That's too late. I closed the,
It's just a comment, but it's not anything direct. It's just that I think that bringing this back for discussion about what council manager had to say is worthy in the future. That's not something that we'll have to vote.
yeah, I don't disagree. We just need to make sure we understand what our bylaws say. Next one.
Cemetery?
Yeah.
Resolution number 2025-068, moved by myself, second by Councillor Allen. Resolve the bylaw number 4658 being a bylaw of Town of the Paw to respect the dedication, management, and regulation of Lakeside Cemetery, and to repeal bylaw number 4633 be read first time.
Call the question. Everyone's good? All in favor? Opposed, carried.
Resolution number 2025-069, moved by myself, second by Councillor Allen. Resolve the bylaw number 4659 being a bylaw of Town of the Paw to provide a waste management system within the limits of the Town of the Paw and to repeal. Bylaw number 4559 be read first time.
Same story as the deal. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed, carried.
Just for the information of the public, these bylaws are all available online.
Yeah.
The people are on the specifics of what a particular bylaw.
Yeah, and if you look at the, actually, if you look at our agenda tonight, it highlights the areas that are changed, which scratches out the actual date and schedule and creates a schedule. Like I said, one of the things that this council's inherited is a fee and fine schedule that hasn't been updated for many years. And it's all tied into individual bylaws, so you pull that out, have it revisited every year so that it always stays live. You don't have to worry about every single bylaw being adjusted. Okay, Department Friendship Center variation.
Resolution number 2025-070, moved by myself, second by Councillor Allen. Whereas the Paw Friendship Center Incorporated submitted a variation application 2025-02 with regards to transferring the ownership of the Paw Friendship Center Incorporation from the Town of the Paw. And whereas a public hearing occurred on April 8th, 2025. Therefore, be it resolved, the council approve variation application 2025-02 submitted by the Paw Friendship Center Incorporated, located at Lot 1, Block D, Plan 587.
I believe at our public hearing, there was no objections. This is something that we've been talking about for a number of years. Is there any further comments of that? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed, carried. Yeah, next one. Or, yeah.
Resolution number 2025-071, moved by Councillor Manich, second by Councillor Hopper. Whereas 10195-304 Manitoba Limited submitted a variation application 2025-03 regarding the size of the non-digital billboard. And whereas public hearing occurred on April 8th, 2025, therefore be it resolved that council approved variation application 2025-03 submitted by 10195-304 Manitoba Limited, located at lot A, plan 5237.
Just for everybody's knowledge out there in viewing land, this is the sign, the non-animated or electric sign on the side of the Royce Johnson Arena, advertising the Blizzard. This a variance to ensure that it meets into our planning documents. Any further questions? Seeing none, call the questions. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 2025-072, moved by Councillor Manich, second by Councillor Hopper. Be it resolved, the council approve the town of Paul 2025 fee schedule.
This is what we were talking about earlier. Now the fees and schedules are all on one document, all been updated as best we can.
Yes, this schedule will be yearly something. So in 2026, we have to update this. It's going to be a live document. As
Absolutely.
we are changing things, we'll be adding more to it. So I believe there are some things that we might need to do probably next year. So it's going to be yearly.
Yeah.
Resolution for this.
No, that's great. I mean, getting 90% there is better than where it was, so. Seeing that, no further questions, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 2025-073, moved by Councillor Manich, second by Councillor Hopper. Whereas federal and provincial leaders are encouraging Canadians to buy Canadian products, and whereas municipalities can assist in the Team Canada effort to combat tariffs and support Canadian businesses in our procurement for capital and infrastructure programs. Now therefore be it resolved that Town of Paul Council approves the purchase of Canadian-based products where possible.
And it's good direction for us to try to do the best we can to purchase and buy as many Canadian-made, Canadian-produced products as possible. Obviously, keeping in mind the rules that go around with NAFTA and all the trade agreements, and as well as not to create policies that have ourselves. So I think this is a great statement. Is there any further questions on that? Seeing none, call the question out there. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 2025-074, moved by Councillor Manich, seconded by Councillor Atkinson. Resolved that council authorize the following accounts. First, the pay period number 7 and 8 in the amount of $265,561.59. General checks number 32410 to 32480 in the amount of $107,562.88. And EFTs in the amount of $708,724.68.
Everybody had a chance to look through the check registries. Is there any question?
One question for me. There's one on there to, Brandy's septic service. We had a discussion, I think last year about, companies or individuals submitting invoices
Yes.
in a timely fashion. I think some of these invoices were.
We reached out to him, and I actually shown I asked him several times because on my schedule, I actually put monthly reminder. Also, we did not get a response.
Okay, I mean, just like in our course of budgeting, we know what we're gonna be spending, or we budget for it. We're paying invoices from April of 2024 now. So that's something I would say probably wasn't budgeted for. Not questioning the work that was done and all of that, but the invoices They're just invoices, they don't say, they're not signed by anybody. So just, I'm just saying that they should be, submitting them in a timely fashion. If they're not, they're just, not getting paid. I mean, you can't expect, this to send an invoice out a year later, somebody asks them to pay it. And there's substantial dollars there too, it's not, not questioning the work and all that, does good work, but send bills in, most companies send bills in.
And usually the companies are chasing you net 30 or net 60 or net 90, not the company chasing the person to pay. So it's, if there is not, that's good.
I'd support the idea of creating a policy or procedure in terms of payment, because we did have that discussion. We've had it, I think, each year, and about the same vendor. Again, no doubt that he's done the work, but management may need to ensure that our policy is followed if we create one, to ensure that invoices are submitted or they are at risk of not being paid. That way there's no gray area.
No, that's a good point. So something as a takeaway. Is there any further discussions on the check registry? Seeing none, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. That's right. Sorry, I don't.
Resolution number 2025-075, moved by Councillor Manage, seconded by Councillor Atkinson. Resolved that council accept the financial statements for the period ending February 2025 as prepared and submitted by L. Armstrong Control.
We have a chance to review the financial statements. I guess my only comment would be to when you look through the actual spending to date, there's some accounts that are actually spent nearly their entire budget already, and we're 2 months into the year. So I would hope that our staff has got an exception management program in place to decide how they're going to ensure that they don't overspend their budget, or that they come forward and ask council once they know that they're going to be short, to proactively allow council to understand what the impact is on the financial system. And there's a few areas that are outlined in that in those sheets, and good work by everybody identifying that. But
And they weren't grant based, right?
yeah, no. Well, like when there's one around snow removal, like,
Yeah.
you know, there's be good reasons maybe for it, but it's just that, what do? If we think we're gonna spend all our budget, can we just overrun our budget and not tell anybody we're gonna overrun the budget? That's all I'm asking. We need to have some cost controls around that. Okay, so call a question, all in favor? Opposed? Got 2 documents going in. Hey, personnel, letter of understandings.
Resolution number 2025-076, moved by Councillor Manage, seconded by Councillor Atkinson. Resolved that council approve the letters of understanding to ensure compliance with negotiated agreements for vacation carryover, Article 13.03, probationary period, Article 3.12, and museum curator wage adjustments.
I think we've discussed these multiple times. Clarity on the collective agreement. Is there any comments or concerns with that? Seeing none, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? You in favor? Okay. Committees and, yeah. Committees and reports. Councillor Commoner is away, Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce, the big one, of course, first one to announce, Get Trade Show starts on the 8th of May, 9th and 10th, Mother's Day weekend. Hopefully everyone can attend. It is a sold out event. The only other thing really worth mentioning is the Lunch and Learns will continue. The last one did fall short. I think there's a little bit of a scheduling programming error just because it did fall at spring break.
Yeah.
Communication kind of fell apart. But the next one will not fall until June, and that'll be the last one for the summer, until summer.
Good. CDC, I know I've got a report here from Jonathan I can send around to you guys, but, there's that housing co-op that they've been working on with regards to trying to build a 20 to 30 unit building, some daycare co-op information, the Airbnb, stuff that was identified. I think, our CAO has put it in her report as well.
We have 17, and we've already sent it to the assessment branch to implement and change the code to commercial. So we've sent everything. So, last week, Jonathan gave me a new additional one that he found. So we've already sent that one to assessment branch as well.
Yeah, my only question would be is why do we have to, I read your report, why do we have to wait till 2026 for that? Why wouldn't we implement
That is
that?
what the assessment branch told us.
Why?
I have to ask you, I have to ask you.
I would say no, but I don't, you guys are too soft and I would push back and say, no, we want it in 2025. But there could be good reasons for it, but
This,
it's always, the first approach is usually no for me, so. Yeah, so lots of stuff going on, CDC will have a meeting this, May. Destination marketings, Councilor Forster's not out here, Cedar Lake.
We will meet the first week of May, I believe it's like the 7th and 8th, and then the following week will be Vision Quest. So we-
For second word,
Meeting on May 22nd, and I would give notice, say, for the first meeting of June, if council could review committee appointments and see if there's anybody wants to change where they are or move. Myself, I've been on one there for a couple of years, so we might look at something else.
We just did committees in October,
Nothing
but you stayed though, didn't you?
Nothing changed.
Yeah.
So if we just review
Yeah.
it.
no, we'll put that into our next, in our next meeting to review committee, just ensure, yeah, no, it's in there as a list, there's nothing to action.
Okay.
So we need to have a reason why it's in there, so I think somebody asked the question, so we'll bring it as an actual discussion point for committee of the whole. Yeah, thanks for that, I guess being new to the recycling board, is there an invite to that meeting? Or
May 22nd,
there was an email sent on
there will be an
Oh.
agenda will be mailed to you.
it? Okay. Library. Councilor Hall.
Yeah, they're, right now completing the process of switching their banking from, I believe it was TD they're at to Scotiabank. Board member Emily Doucette has given her resignation effective the end of May. So they're putting out a call for new board members as well. I think they have a couple of seats still open once Emily has formally left. Discussions about getting a photocopier, they're decided not to extend the lease and declined to buy out the one that they have currently. So they're in discussions on that. And there's still some ongoing concerns about the repairs of the basement and communication with the town regarding those. So it might be more of an in-camera discussion, but yes, that's ongoing.
KSDK, our youth
Oh,
council.
unless Counselor Hopper, did you attend that meeting when we were away to AMM? No, yeah, I didn't.
And our youth council, Aniola.
April 10th, we had 6 students who went to Winnipeg to the presidential competition.
Okay,
I won silver in my category.
wow, congratulations.
Uh,
What was the category?
job skills demonstration, just giving a short, like a 20-30 minute presentation.
Oh, okay.
Our track and field team, as well as our badminton club, have started training. And last week on April 24th, we had our school play, which was really good. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend, but I hear it went really well. So that's good.
All right.
Oh, and also today we conducted our student vote as well at school.
Oh, for, student council?
Or no, for like,
Oh, for the.
Yeah.
Who won?
I don't know yet.
I don't know. Didn't count all the ballots today.
I don't think so.
Who was Brennan?
I think it was just everyone who was on the.
Okay. Like, was it for our region or? was
Yes.
it- Okay, thank you for that.
Actual.
Oh, don't they? Okay. Be interesting to see how that shakes out. Any other reports from councilor or the mayor, or any other updates? I do know I had the interagency meeting a couple weeks ago, well attended. Great presentation on, restorative justice, Mike. And good program, or good presentation, could have talked, I guess, for another hour. We're looking at having another, the next meeting, because they're just at lunch, they are looking for a sponsor for the lunch, so. I was going to see how much the mayor's, budget is for that kind of stuff. I'm also looking at, getting, see if UCN will help pay for it, so. What else?
I attended the Red Dress Alert, which is a kind of a pilot program at UCN. It's basically for a community safety program, and the objective is to decrease or prevent the violence against girls, women, and they want to increase the public awareness. There are 3 phases, so the one we are going through now is the first phase, which is actually the planning stage, and by next year they'll be going to second phase, then third year for the last phase of the program.
And then the other thing that I attended this last week is the One North board meeting, so there'll be more communication to come out on that in the next week or so. I'll send everybody a report, that we can include, as well as to the other municipalities. This is an AMM responsibility. Okay, so as we already talked about, the list of board members, so this will come to our next meeting for discussion on the committee of the whole. And then if we decide to make some changes, we will bring it as resolution to the following meeting and make that change. So have a look at that if anybody's interested in changing. Under reports, management monthly reports, CAO reports, any comments with any of that stuff?
I have one comment, or one question, I should say, for CSO one. My question was, what's the definition of a patrol? The reason I ask is that we did 1,180 patrols in March, that's like 40 a day, so like, what's the definition of a patrol? Maybe Mike could answer that.
Yeah. Basically, when you start off in the morning, they have certain areas that they patrol. They go to landfill, they come back, patrol downtown mostly. They don't stop. They continue around less for lunch or stuff like that. But patrolling the back alleys, streets, wherever they need to go.
Yeah, I know, I get that they're all over the place, I'm just curious, like, you come up with that number of 1180, so it's about 1,180 in March, so that's like 40 days, so like, what would be one patrol? Like, what is a?
Well, we have one patrol, basically start off.
But how do you get to that? How did you come up with that number, Mike?
One back lane is a patrol.
Usually around town, one trip around town, or mostly downtown area. So that if we went to all the back alleys downtown, the banks, that'd be one patrol.
So from like the time they start to the time they stop is a patrol?
They're constantly patrolling, yes.
Do traffic as well?
The only time we do help with traffic if it's like an accident scene that the fire department's out, we can come out and help.
You actually stop vehicles driving in town for traffic stops?
No, we're not at that level right now.
Talked to later, there was a vehicle stop the other day by a community safety officer.
Okay. Yeah.
I think in the agreement, there's 3 particular cases that they can. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but from the agreement, there's 3 particular cases where CSOs have the right to flag down a vehicle. I can't remember what they are right now. But I had a question. So as Councillor Al said, 40 patrols a day.
Basically.
Approximately if we were to throw, that's a lot of traveling around.
Yeah.
Then why are all these bylaws infractions zeros? Because from my understanding, if you're patrolling, you're
Yeah.
looking for bylaw infractions, you're looking for people at risk, you're looking for things that are generally about our community. I can drive down any street on any day and probably find 5 potential bylaw violations. Some obviously not worthy of things.
Yeah.
Some are. I can think of 5 buildings right now that are collapsing on themselves that are now unsafe structures. That should be in the process that to me would be a ticket on here or a mark to say, we address this unsightly property for this. We address this. So if there's that many patrols, there should be a bit of a correlation to the number of infractions
Yeah.
identified as well.
A lot of these buildings have been, brought forward to the front desk with issues of, certain buildings that are collapsing. We are doing lots of garbage right now.
So can you see those? So, because that's a big promotion to say, hey, that their 40
Yeah.
travels a day is well worth it because look at the results.
Yeah.
But we're not getting any results, then it seems like you're just driving around.
The ticket itself, that's the only, when it says the ticket, so if we give a ticket out, Schedule A, Schedule B, then we put that on there, right? The ticket itself, but we do, like I said, we come across it and we.
So when you issue the first ticket, there's
Yeah.
a time period that it sits
Yes.
where nothing happens.
And then the
until you issue
Schedule
the
A,
next
then
But that first issue is still a request for action,
can
right? So that is,
change it, yeah, I
there's
can
just no
change it,
penalties
yeah.
associated.
Yeah, I agree, I
Yeah,
can
so
change it.
it just be good to see the stats,
Yeah, no, for
because,
sure.
because right
Yeah.
now I'm thinking,
Yeah,
you're wasting
I
gas,
understand.
right? So if I say, well, that's good, they caught this, they caught that, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
Just a quick question, are you doing any foot patrol?
Yeah, that's what's gonna.
We will be doing foot patrols now, it gets warmer here, during the winter time, we don't try not to get out, walk around too much.
Yeah, it's warm now, so.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll be, and we are looking at maybe bike patrol, but that's, something we're looking at right now, so.
I think just your presence walking in the streets,
Yeah.
moving people along.
Yeah.
That's the intent.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times too, when you're patrolling downtown, some of the guys will go check in Monkey Tread, they'll go into, all the business there where the frequent, the streetwalkers frequent in there. So we go in there, make sure everything's okay. We do actually went to Giant Tiger and make sure everything's okay, like, so we do walk around a bit, so.
not to get into operations, but of course, safety wise, you always want to have within pairs.
Yes,
If they're strictly patrolling, looking for violations, looking for things that are at risk, is there a reason why they have to be in pairs there? If he's not actioning anything other than observing, if there was a need to get your partner, I completely support that.
Yeah.
But watching 2 town employees drive around for 42 hours a day doesn't look good, especially when you don't have the results
They
for.
just don't sit in the vehicle.
Sorry?
They do, go out, they do check places.
No, but there are times where you are just gonna
Yeah,
drive, right?
you do engage with people, the safety of 2 people, it's just that you can't deal with certain things if it's just one, right? So,
But you can also call in like an RCMP officer would, or if you needed RCMP, one person could do that. You're just not gonna take action necessarily, right?
yes,
But again, it just.
Well, sorry, we don't typically take questions from the audience, but although we're talking about the RCMP, we'll allow it to come forward, so.
Thank you. Just to address the topic of safety in that question, I get where you're coming from and I completely understand. But I want to make this known to everybody. Your CSOs are uniformed officers. They are peace officers. They are not weaponized. They do not have sidearms for protection like the RCMP does, or say MFMP or any other police force. Their training is not at the level of any other police force. They are peace officers, they're safety officers. And the level of safety that we take from a police officer standpoint is we're out there in partners to not only protect the community, but it's to protect us. And I can speak to that level of protection when it comes to waiting for backup. I'm gonna liken it like this. I'd like to see you go to the gym and give 1,010% workout for 10 straight minutes, because that's exactly what you're gonna be giving yourself to wait for your backup to come. So identifying that these safety officers should be out there single If they were to get into and every single interaction that they have with the public has the ability to turn to extremely unsafe conditions, I think that would be extremely,
I made it very,
big issue for the.
I made it very clear, though, unactionable, things that you're not taking action on. To drive down a back lane, to look for someone not looking after their garbage stand, to look after the conditions of properties.
But that's what I'm talking
Yes,
about.
but that's those kinds of things that
Yeah.
an individual can do, where they're never getting out of their vehicle, they're never acting, they're simply making notes.
Okay.
Right? That's all I was getting at. Never am I saying they should go and engage or walk down dark alleys like I did when I was public safety officer by myself at 3 o'clock. in the morning.
Okay.
It's just simply to help curb or to enhance our bylaw enforcement, because they're not just.
And it's something that, like, Mike, you should be doing anyways on your own, is that when it comes to the bylaw stuff, that's something that you can do as well during the day, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to move along from that, I had a couple of, does anybody else have any questions on the reports? Because I had a couple of comments.
Just to comment on that last issue, not the drag.
Yeah, go ahead.
Two people in the vehicle, if you're driving around and you see, and if you were just one, and you saw something, you would ignore it. That's preferred to have two people there, because you never know what you're gonna come from us.
But how does his partner get to him? He's only got one kid.
Okay, well, so
The whole air
I
safety
did,
if it needs that much action. Right?
guys, I
I'm
did,
still
yeah, I did sort of break the rules that we don't have, where this is a council meeting, and typically council addresses questions and not a debate from the audience, so I appreciate, don't apologize. So just a quick couple of comments, I think when I look through these reports, very well done, nice to see sort of the highlights and some of the details around that. I think some of the stuff that we've talked about, you know, we received $4.2 million from the Grove for our landfill expansion. There's been no public exposure to that. We've got recognized at AMM of receiving that at the mayor and CAO conference, but we haven't made it very public that that's been a grant that was received, that was applied for by the staff. So I think we need to sort of pat yourselves on the back a little bit like that. And I know it's created a lot more work for us to do, but we should talk about that. I do want to talk a little bit about the Vactor incident, as it's later on the list there. But I do have one comment with regards to training systems. So when I look at the trainings that we have, I see a lot of comments in the financial reports about training. I see a lot of comments in the management reports, whether it's coming from the fire department or HR with regards to training. But I don't know if there's good visibility on what we're actually training to and what level we should be trained at. And not that we want to get involved in the nitty-gritty details that Joe should be trained on how to operate a chainsaw and this guy shouldn't be able to. But I think we need to understand when we're investing external money, we should understand that training budget and how that's laid out. So especially like, you know, I don't know the rules and I could have Googled it and learned it all, but you know, what NFPA 1072 is and 1041 and 1030 and all that sort of stuff and who's getting what. Like if it said, oh, that's for Jacob and, or the deputy and the fire chief, okay, it makes sense. If it's for volunteer firemen, like, I don't know if should a volunteer fireman have that. And so I guess what we need to do is just understand what that investment is. So if we could get BOLA, maybe not on a regular basis, but, or on a, you know, a quarterly basis, sort of what the training is being done on, you know, within the staff, because I know it's part of our strategic plan to train our staff. So what are we actually doing? And how does it impact and improve the municipality and the people that are working within the municipality? The other question I had, and I know Byron's here, 24 calls for service. I'm assuming that's year to date.
No, that was the typo.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I see 14 on the total and I was like, I was missing that. The other thing I was gonna ask, when it comes to calls for service, because of the number of incidents we're having, I'm wondering if we should get a little bit more of a detailed report on what's actually happening. And I was really thinking, Chief, is around the fires at the landfill, because, you know, we talk about these landfill fires and it's sort of eating our breakfast and costing us a fortune, but we never see what preventative things are being done to prevent them from happening again. So, you know, I know we call the RCMP because people are out there lighting fires, but is there anything else gonna be done? Because we've always had people in the landfill. And I'm not looking for an answer right now, Myron, unless you wanna give me a short one, but
Mayor, there's something that happened, was it over the weekend? You
Yeah.
sent me an email, I want to update the council, can you just share that with council?
So I wanna give Sam's guys props with that compactor. That's been a huge help out there with them compacting it. I believe they're doing it every day or every other day.
Great.
That's really cut down on our landfill fires, but there was a fire, I think Saturday morning, where a lady got burned. She got 2nd-degree burns on 15% of her body from falling asleep beside the pile that ended up catching on fire. We were out there, I think, 3 hours working on that fire. EMS transported her to the hospital for treatment of her burns. What she was doing out there, I don't know. Mike can attest to how many times he goes out there in the morning and there's people out there.
We have told them many times.
yeah. No, I mean, it's unfortunate, and I really, I don't think any of us are looking for the nitty-gritty details other than that. We want to know that what are we doing to prevent reoccurrence of any incidents that are happening, so we can reduce our cost, reduce the risk to our firefighters from having to respond to things, and if there's things that we're missing. So when we get a report, if we have a fire, if we can get some sort of short narrative of, you know, this is this, and this is what happened. I went back and looked in 2015 on even how the budget or how the cost of the departments was shared with the council, which showed the actual detailed hours that were charged out for each fire department, firemen, and training and all that sort of stuff. So I think for us, because it's a pretty significant cost to our department or to the community, if we could get a little bit more details on that. And then when I was looking at your report, you know, like, I know there's fires at Clearwater Lake, and then I looked at your financials. I'm assuming that's the reason why your revenues are up, because you're getting paid for that, so you are invoicing that.
Yeah.
And then so when we have like this fire at in the bush out there on the weekend or whenever that was, that would be charged to. Okay. And then the false alarms, we're doing that same thing to the false alarms getting.
Yeah, first one's free, second one, there's a charge, third one, there's a charge, and fourth one.
Except for Manitoba Housing,
Even Manitoba.
they're free.
No, they get billed too. First one's free.
Well, they don't get no free ones. They have already utilized all their frees.
So in the new fees and fines, it actually says, you have to go a year, 12 months without a false alarm. And if you, let's say you have one now, and then you have one in March, it resets. You have to go to the following March without a false.
Yeah, but they had one today because I heard it ringing. So is that their free one or is that their?
We didn't have one today. I was on that was an actual fire today.
Oh, is it? Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
Just wanted to add to that. We had talked earlier in the year about a discrepancy between the billing, the number that was presented and the number that was actual. We never did get a follow-up on that because there was a $6,000 difference. It said there was $16,000 billed, but only $10,000 was collected. That was a question at council one time.
Was that for?
That was about false alarms.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it was in earlier in the year at a council meeting that the number provided was by the report was $16,000 for false alarms, but accounting said there was only $10,000 billed. So just wondering where that discrepancy came from, or if it was billed later and the report was what's coming and it was never filled, just to follow up on
I
that.
have to check.
Oh, that'd be good.
So with the landfill, when the composter is not composter, what did you, compactor, when that's used, less likely to have a larger fire.
Yeah, and it limits. So they bring it out when we're out there as well, and it limits our time out there as well.
Good.
when it was down, we'd be out there 12, 14 hours. With that running, we're out there maybe 2 hours.
Okay. The only other part that I feel is missing from a report, this is all about fire training and training attendance. As in having a fire or a false alarm, whatever it may be. There's nothing on pub ed, there's nothing on fire inspections, as Councillor Murphy had mentioned, there's no real details on what's really happening. By this report, which is how we're going to make our decisions on should we support you financially, should we agree with this, that. If we only have half a picture, we would like more. So I would like to see, are you doing fire inspections? Are you doing pub ed? Are you in the schools? Again, I've always described it as be the cheerleader for your department, right? Brag about the good things that you're doing. Preventative is more important than reactionary. As much as the ERT team may disagree, for the preventative is the stuff to get excited about, especially for kids, right? Because they're so
Yes.
sure.
He has done a couple of inspection when I asked him to go for the occupancy, so that will be good, thank you.
So yeah, just to close this up, now I want to say thank you to Mike though and to Byron and your crews. I mean, I know you guys are doing a valuable service to our community, and I get a lot of positive feedback from all the work that you guys are doing. So I know it's easy for us to maybe question the things that aren't going, but we know there's a lot of good things happening out there, and please pass that on to your crews. Although we like where you're at, we'd still like you to be better, but we like what you're doing.
It's good, thank you for that.
Okay, so moving along, incidents. There's no other questions. That's the Via Rail incident. I only had a couple of questions with that, and what was the cost of the repair? Is it covered by insurance? And where's the report with the safety report for it? So that, because that was a serious actual incident.
Yeah.
So I think council is ultimately responsible for the health and safety of all the community staff. I think that report should be, that safety report should be reviewed with council.
Okay, we'll forward that to council. In terms of the cost, I think.
Yes, for now, we don't know the cost, but we have a deductible of $5,000, so we are still waiting to get the cost, right?
Yeah, we still haven't seen any invoices from Hydro or the electrical company or their general contractor.
Yeah, no, I agree with Councillor Hopper. It'll probably be, our deductible will be the least expensive option, although unless it impacts insurance in the long run.
And part of that, operation with actor safety operations has been reviewed with the different operators.
Yeah, part of the safety committee's investigation is to not only to figure out kind of what happened, but also to try to find better ways to do things. So it was pretty enlightening in terms of a couple of ideas. We're in the process of ordering some overhead power signs. So we're going to work into our new structure that anytime we're on any site where there's any overhead lines, we would go to the markers that way, because the work can feel redundant at times, and you can kind of maybe lose spatial awareness at times. So we want
is the safety investigation done?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, if we could get a copy, that'd be good. Okay, I guess unfinished business, anything missing off that list? I have a couple of things that I would like to make sure is added on there.
I don't remember where we ended up with the discussion on it, but the walking past sidewalk, whatever, down Fafford, is that just kind of something we're talking about doing, or is that something that we're trying to action?
I don't know, I think we brought it up as an idea, and then I don't think it went anywhere from there, but we could put it down there again.
It came up in discussion with myself and the citizen on
Yeah.
last week. So.
No, we should probably put that back on the list. And maybe that's something you build into our plans, or 2026 even. Just a sidewalk extension from Fafford to connect the sidewalk to UCN, but to the Pine View area, so that it comes around across and connects to the walking path, because right now there's individuals that use that path and you have to walk on some uneven gravel road. There's no really way of getting to that path. I would also like to put on unfinished business, the special service levy. I haven't seen that on anybody's list. I was going to write an actual, issue sheet, but I think it's pretty clear what we're looking for there. So, I would like to see the timelines on what's gonna need it to be done to move that forward, and not sit and wait till the fall and then then it becomes fresh and start over again. So I would like to see, unless council disagrees,
No.
some urgency along getting that moving and not waiting. And also, I would like to see the tax incremented financing, bylaw be produced and for council's review. We've discussed that as well, and I think we've shared enough information with that, how that would be incorporated into our community. So I'd be looking at administration to provide us, some timelines and details on that. And I don't expect it will take months to do that. And I'm a firm believer, if we don't have enough resources inside, then let's go get some outside. And I'm sure there's consultants out there in the world that can write those things up for us and help us with that kind of stuff.
One more that's missing. I brought up an issue sheet of sharps in mid-December,
No, that's, yeah.
and we're gonna visit it after 90 days. So we've exceeded the timeline, so it'd be good to have that sharps and.
Yeah, and as a note on that, I'm glad you brought that up. As a note on that, I'm at another meeting, so we know that the provincial government set forward a standard to the NRHAs or to the RHAs to come up with a plan to deal with that sort of stuff. And so I'm sitting with that group right now. There's not, as you said, though, there's really nothing coming out about it. So I'll remind me the next, I think I'm gonna have a meeting next week, but remind me the next time and I'll bring you an update on that if I forget. But yeah, that's a good point as well. Okay, sorry, for you guys having to wait till the end. If next time we will move you to the front so that we don't, but we're almost there.
I just have a quick question about this unfinished business. So every time a counselor comes up with something, do we just add it to this list, or are we writing issue sheets to get it added to the list so that it makes it official business?
I think we had issue
Yes,
sheets.
the issue sheet,
On all of these?
Yes.
I don't know if we had one for the falconer. That's why I was asking. I don't know.
that was a discussion on council. I don't think we.
No, I actually think I'll go back and look. I actually think I do have an issue sheet.
Okay, actually, I remember now too.
Yeah, so I can send it in. Like,
No, but yeah, I think some issues do come up on unfinished business as a discussion, and we all agree
Yeah.
it should be actionable. May not be an issue sheet, but it would be a council agreement, but most are, like mine that I brought up tonight, for example, December 16th, I brought an issue
Yeah.
sheet forward to address it, and then we said we'd revisit it in 90 days.
So what my question is, or was, in order to have it on here, are we doing issue sheets instead of random blurt?
I think we should always, our best practice is for us to have an issue sheet because it's on an agenda and it requires a follow-up. I think if council sits here and decides that today that this is an urgent issue and we would like our CAO to do something about it, then we can get it put on the list. I don't want to get it so formal that, you know, we can't bring anything else up. I'm gonna wait for 2 weeks. If there's something urgent. But best practice for us is always to have an issue sheet and follow up with an issue sheet and so it brings clarity.
So in addition to the past reports that we just received, under the manager's reports, can we just randomly make specific requests to managers saying we feel that, or one person will say that there's something missing from a report and then it just needs to get added to that report, or is it going to be a council decision?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, I could put the training thing, and I believe I sent a note on that as well. But no, that's a good point. I should actually put an issue sheet in to get that information. Unless council doesn't believe that it's important, then we can drop it. I have no problems with that.
I'm
as
just
well.
trying to
Yeah.
make sure that,
I just don't want to get stuck in the bureaucracy of our own
yeah,
process to try to get things moving forward.
Back to your point of we're having a discussion on any subject, council agrees it's worthwhile. The
Yeah.
information is requested to CSO, you don't need an issue sheet that we brought forward that
Yeah.
way.
enough, thank you.
Also, I want to ask something on the community cleaning day. I did apply for grants from Manitoba and before, but I've not had from them. So I've discussed with some of the manager, because we are having a management meeting this week. We will conclude on the day, but we're looking at sometimes in May.
Can I make a, can I, and a council can agree or disagree, so please feel free to disagree with me. Can I make a suggestion though? So our green team starts on Monday
On Monday,
and there's 12 of them.
they have 12, yes. 12.
Can we just take all 12 of those people before they do any other regular work and send them around our community and clean up? And that's it? And give them garbage bags and half tons and barrels and wheelbarrows?
Yes, we can do that, but the first thing to do, we have to train them.
I get to having to onboard them, but I'm sure you don't need to be trained to pick up a piece of garbage and put it in a barrel and.
That's right.
There's some basic safety things, but you're right, it's not.
Yeah, well, I'm saying I'm bored of.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think that was the discussion we had with the rec department, was when they come on board, their priority should be parks, playgrounds, beautification of the community. downtown.
Streets, back lanes.
I don't believe all 12 are starting at once. I think
Okay.
the university students that we have coming on board will be starting, and then they're becoming in a bit of a wave, so. But the discussion from the rec department and sort of the passing with them was that was their priority, was cleaning up around all of our facilities, around the streets, around the parks and the community beautification.
High traffic areas first, the high touch point areas first.
On the topic of community cleanup, could you send the forklift to go and pick up the concrete that is of no use, like by Mayor Murphy's Park, for example?
Yes.
Those things part of the cleanup, like where the concrete has been destroyed, right? Just go get rid of it. It's a real eyesore. You can't use
The
it.
one that's been poured, or
The ones that have been poured, there's about 3 of them that are basically of no use. It's kind of like left for the community to say, hey, look what we failed at. It would be nice to have those cleaned up as well.
I thought those were benches, but
They were benches, but the kids destroyed them, right? And when they were poured, there are no benefit. They're
yeah,
not gonna be
I'll
used.
mention it to the rec department.
Just as part of cleanup to do our due diligence as well, because we're the first ones looked at.
That's right.
Okay, so those are the standing issues. Any statement of financial, everybody's cool with that? With recycling? Drive, recycling?
Sorry.
Everybody's good with that?
Yeah.
Mr. RCMP, sorry, Sergeant Stark, we're keeping here for 2 hours.
I'll get you a sash that says.
I'll stay right here.
So there's the report, that Sergeant Stark has provided us. Is there any questions, concerns, comments, outbursts that anybody has for Sergeant Stark while he's here? And we've asked him to sit here for 2 hours, almost 3.
Better make up something.
Well, I see, it's nice to see that, the gap on your staffing seems to
Yeah.
be closing up a little bit. So-
Yes, we've been very, I guess I should be going to the front, my apologies for. We've been very fortunate to have 5 of our 7 members coming to the pod here now. So we've got 5 that are in the training process. It's a 2-month process where they have to be with their field trainers, and then they go into a 3-month process where they are able to take calls and be a little bit more involved until they can be written off and be, fully on their own.
Signed off.
Signed off, yes, signed off. We've got one member, our very first cadet, Constable Taves, that is here and is just finalizing his 6-month process. We have received 3 new members, Constable Ryan Bell, Constable Caden Melnick, and Constable Saywood Cole, that are here now going through their first 2 months. And we've got Constable Steve Hitchin that'll be here. He's graduated and he'll be here, I think it's the beginning or end of April, pretty much where we are now, but very close in the next couple of days. He was subpoenaed back for a court system thing back at his home back down south. So he'll be up here at the beginning of May.
Transferred from Cranbrook, is he right yet?
Transfer camp, that would be Corporal Joel Germain, and he has purchased a home in the community. He'll be expected to be here mid-July.
And we have a meeting tomorrow at 2:00.
Yeah.
Only other question, just looking at the percentages real quick. Decrease in public disorder, attributed that to our good friends Mike and his crews.
Yes, the CSO program is actually helping us out substantially, and I don't think they get the credit that they deserve sometimes, but I do want to bring that across to the county council, mayor council, that they are doing a fantastic job from our viewpoint. They're liaising with us on the regular, they're helping us in areas that we really need to help, and we're finding great results coming from them and working together with the CSO, so.
We also see a significant increase in break and enter and the motor vehicle collision. Is that like break and enter? Is that mostly in town? Is that?
Some of it, yeah. So what's being reported is for your town stats for the break and enters. We report to the area of Kelsey and to the Cormorant community. So what you see for stats that come up are for in-town stats.
Oh no, I just see cottage there, so that's what I was wondering. What cottage would be like clear or like Guelph, I guess. So okay. No, well, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Oh, sorry, Councilor.
Just a question or comment, not putting you on the spot or anything, but from our earlier presentation, any thoughts or comments from the Oscars place and the presentation that was made?
Plenty, but I think I'll just kind of keep it focused more so. From our standpoint and the observations that we see, I do see a lot of what was said in today's presentation. There are positives and negatives to everything. I think Councillor Mannix was exactly right in saying that we have a transient situation, we have a transient issue that we need to deal with. I see that on the RCMP side of it because a lot of the people that come to the community are from out of the community. And the issues that we have is that there's no way of getting out of the community. You're stuck here in that situation because they can't afford to pay for a taxi. They can't afford to pay for a train ticket. They can't afford to pay for a plane to take them back to their communities or wherever they're from. They're stuck here. So when you look at, I think the 21,000 contacts that Oscars Place identified as making, a lot of those are contacts that we've created as a community. We don't have the ability to go, hey, I understand that you've come here on medical and that something went awry and that you now have collapsed the ability to return home through that medical process. But what are we doing to assist them or aid them into getting back to their home communities? A lot of the 21,000 contacts have homes that they can't get back to because that's a failure on our part. And I think really if we're going to invest any time and effort into Oscars Place being, ran better or more of a dynamic result or positive result, we have to look at why they're here in the beginning and why they're here and they're not going home. We see it on a regular where we know that there are people with homes in our community, but they're not in our community because they're homeless. They're in our community because they're here for the party. I'm sorry to say.
Years ago, the chaplaincy provided money for individuals to get home. If you can identify individuals who want to go home and they just need bus fare or train ride or something, tell them to come and see us. There's got to be money somewhere, and on the condition you don't come back.
Yeah.
Back, which is used to be. It's not being cruel or anything, but if you really want to go home and you don't have the money, you're going to get off the streets if that's your issue.
I just liken it to, I think it was a presentation that was a few months back that there was somebody from Swan River, I think, was giving us a presentation on homelessness. And I think a lot of it, how he was explaining that there's a whole circuit, and I call it a circuit, where they're going from Winnipeg to Dauphin to Swan River to the Paw to Flin Flon to Thompson and back to Winnipeg. And they go through that circuit because after a certain period of time, they've exhausted all of their opportunities in that certain location, and they move on to the next, until, you know, that first location is forgotten about them, and now they're back in it again. So it's an OODA loop, it's a circular of succession. So I feel that there's a lot of those OODA loops that are out there where once you're in it, you can't get out of it. And I think at the end of the day, if we really want to understand Oscar's place and what it can positively provide to the community, we have to understand why these people are here to begin with. And I'm hearing the presentations from the RCP side of people that come to the county council and provide these presentations, but that's specific to what they have to offer. I have not yet heard a presentation of why they're here. Why are our homelessness issues in the paw? What's bringing them here? What is causing them to stay here? What is not preventing them from going home? Those are all questions that are not being answered.
Well, I think those answers are out there if you ask them. I don't want to get into a big debate about that tonight, but sometimes it's just, you know, I've heard those questions. And I've heard the answers there. It's actually just better here than it is where they're coming from.
And some of the
That's simple
answers
as
are
that.
extremely personal as well, and the transient problem. There's been a transient problem for 20+ years.
But I don't want to get into a big discussion on this topic again because we already discussed. Is there any further questions for staff or Sergeant Stark on the RCMP report? Because it's already 8 o'clock and we've been here a long time.
No, I just like to say, I really appreciate the breakdown of the numbers by area. And it's pretty clear, section 8 is the issue. Is it possible to have it focus a little bit more on section 8 to see exactly where in there? Because I was looking at this kind of like going through, you know, crime prevention for environmental design, there's some fences we can have to get knocked down, so we're just take that sort of stuff, better lighting up there, then we'll improve that area. So is there any way to kind of drill a little deeper into what's going on in area 8?
In going through the process that we went through to get to here, I can tell you that we pretty much narrowed it as narrow as we possibly can get it without going through every single all of the, which would be like extremely time consuming to try and get you even further narrowed down to the questions that you're asking. Section 8 is our hot spot, and we do a lot of work within there to try and prevent that from getting bigger and try to get those incidents and occurrences down. But without just the way our systems are, we can't narrow it physically down with the quality of our system isn't there to provide those.
Just further to come, if there's an area there, like you mentioned, poor lighting, you get lots of incidents there, or an area where people are congregating on.
The cameras?
Cameras, just, you don't have to have a stat to say, let us know, let Sam know, and the town can, if it's in our area, we for sure clean it up.
Yeah, if you just were able to ask the members, what do you see for a problem in this area? Just a verbal report, we can at least go look at it.
Solar lights?
Yeah, something to light it up better, clean it up better. And probably make the job easier for you as well, so not chasing in the dark and whatnot, right?
Every little bit works for everybody pitching in helps.
And in some ways, Mike has done some of the work, because he says they have places they specifically check every day. It'd be good to know what are those areas, so we could potentially action them or assist in getting good at it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Colin and Sergeant Stark, and appreciate you coming down and providing us this information, so.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, cemetery management, slides. We're just looking at it, or?
Yes, I just give you a little bit of summary, but you can just put this up. So just listen to questions, but I just give you highlights. A couple of weeks ago, an incident occurred at the cemetery. Council requested that we should come up with strategy on how to prevent that, and our plan on how to go about that. So that was why we are presenting this. This was actually made by Joe, but Joe is unable to be here today. Our big aim is to make sure that we improve our services and we make the cemetery better, like park-like. Can we do everything this year? No, but we definitely try and make it better than the way it is at the current. I would like to appreciate council for the support by approving funding to be able to hire part-time staff, which is Gary Legacy. We have been able to give him, it's starting on Monday, offer the job to him and giving him the letter of appointment and as he has signed it. It will be coming, but it's not going to be spending like normal hours, like 40 hours per week. It will be coming on a weekly basis. And basically, it's going to be training someone there to be able to know what to do things and how to go about things.
Are we documenting all that?
Not yet. We have to. Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah. So that's the essence of the first slide. So for the equipment wise, we talked to Legacy. I met with all the management staff that first time with this, public works as well as maintenance. And I talked to people in charge during the cemetery work itself. Based on what we had from them, we came up with this. In terms of equipment wise, based on the recommendation from Mr. Legacy as well as other people working there. So this is the first recommendation that we're giving, that there should be something like a storage, like a seal can. So Joma came up with this idea that this would be kind of storage. So what are we doing here?
So some of the lag that we see in terms of efficiency is staff have to go to the shop every morning, pick up the riding lawnmower with the trailer, haul it out there, and then also load it up, bring it back. So you know, between hauling it out there, hauling it back, and then that's like an efficiency issue. So Mr. Legacy had recommended that perhaps we could look at a storage or some type of shed out there. We can keep tools and stuff. We've had some bad luck in the past with the existing sort of wooden sheds. So the thought was maybe we can find a small sea can that we can maybe. I think what Jim was probably trying to do is like disguise it a little bit so it doesn't stick out. Obviously, this is just a look, but it's not exactly what we're looking for out there. But just something like that would maybe go a long way to just with efficiencies. If we can leave the mower on site, for instance, and leave some tools on site for the staff. So if you'd like me to, is it okay? So obviously, we had some events during the winter that we're very regretful that we want to obviously improve our operations. And so there was some discussion around would a mini excavator sort of help us ensure optimal respect is given to all of the plots. And so Jamar went and priced unit out. We think procedurally, and then speaking also, we had like Paul mentioned, or CEO mentioned, we had some meetings with Mr. Legacy to kind of talk through some of the difficulties and challenges we were facing, and he had some good ideas of how he managed the cemetery when he was there. That we believe, had we followed those practices, would have gone a long way to, if not completely stop, but very much mitigate any future sort of issues like we had in the past. So as I said before you today, I don't know if we're at a point that we believe purchasing a mini excavator would be 100% necessary. It'd be useful. However, there's some procedural things, for example, loved ones who want to go out there and have a bench, for instance, and sit and enjoy just being out there for some time to spend with their loved one. So at Mr. Legacy, he would allow the benches. However, at the end of the season, he'd park the bench tight up against the headstone. So that way in the winter, if there was any requirement for digging or creating a path, the benches are protected, they're out of the way, and then it still allows people to have those benches out there. And he had a few other novel ideas to help us as well. So
that was his recommendation to, but I'm able to follow that. I just want us to learn from, because he has been there before. He has the experience in managing that place. We just want to explore every opportunity, anything that we can learn from emergency movement and make our own rights.
This is good.
We do have the burial procedure. So like, there was a burial last week. So what we've done differently this time is that the person that was in charge of this actually went to the cemetery with this. So he has to check everything done and send it to the director and ensure that we follow the process and we follow all the procedure that are stated here. So that's tried this last week, and so far it's really worked for us. But we have to be consistent with what we're doing. As we need to focus on. So this is the burial procedure that we have. And not only in paper, we have a new, go to the slide, a new software that we're using, and this is actually useful. So what we have written, the procedure, we've done everything here on this application. So here they just press their phone and Joma will be able to get everything. I'll be able to have access to it. I'm an administrator, and Joma is an administrator. So all of us will be seeing what they're doing based on this procedure. Whatever we want to edit or add anything to it, we will do this right in this software as well. And if there is any idea from council or anything that we can learn from, we are open to have to the procedure. So this is basically the bylaw, and the others we've done so far is that this has been on the bylaw for long, but we've not been using it. Like, we sent out a letter, put it on our Facebook, we put it on our newspaper, we've been receiving calls about it. By so days, we want to start cleaning. If you have anything for your loved one, that they just go and take it, so that we'll be able to do our job. And we've been receiving calls that, oh, when can we take it back? And we'll be telling them as well. So that's what we have in terms of, so we just copy the bylaw. Another thing that we are adding is we want that place to be beautiful. So we are adding more flower to cemetery this year. And if you look at the board at the cemetery, it's outdated. There's direction what they want to go in. The paper is not even readable, when they're not ready. So we are coming up and with new formats. We are going to send it to people to digitalize it for us. We are not putting a digital one there, but we are coming up with something better than that and change the 1902 wood, whatever from there, and have something better that people will be able to read. So that is what we have here.
Is that something that is mandatory or it's common courtesy?
The board.
Yeah.
This is useful for the direction. Like if someone has a relative that maybe buried years ago and knows the location
Right.
there, to be able to go, to help.
Right, but what my question is the purpose of this sign being out there for common courtesy, or is it mandatory to have it? Because I don't believe I've seen them in all cemeteries, but I know that.
We could look into that. I don't believe it's mandatory, like legal. But,
Cemeteries actually have personnel out there during the day in the office,
Oh,
and you go to the office, and you want to know where somebody is, they'll look it up.
Yeah.
This is because nobody's out there for that service. They can go, if they have the address, so to speak, and they can find it.
Or they would be coming into the office asking
Yeah.
for a map.
Like if they come to the office and we say, okay, the person was very probably at maybe H. So where's H? Maybe when we get there.
Yeah.
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 But I don't know, but I don't think it's so.
No, this is a very good improvement. Any other questions with regards to that?
For the burial procedure, does whoever's checking it off have to sign off on?
So they're signed in through their account on their phone, so the maintenance director or role will be able to see which staff was the one that completed that procedure. So let's say that gentleman was away that day, whoever on the maintenance side that was filling in would
So it's a
also,
name tag.
yeah, we would not do it.
And the other question I had is that the storage shed, if you do put it, where would it go?
I would like to hide it sort of behind the existing one if it was a C-can type, so there's an existing one on the southwest corner of the site. So it's sort of be nice to hide it behind there if it was a small one. That way we could sort of hide the one side of it, and it should be fairly hidden from, so it doesn't look sort of obtrusive.
Is there gonna be a procedure done up, and obviously a lot smaller than this, but done up for the columbarium? Like, I'm assuming we're the ones that place it in the columbarium and all
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that might have been connect to the director.
Any other questions with regards to the cemetery?
This room.
Okay,
That's a separate, yeah.
so 12-4 is a report from Councillor Allen from the AMM. I don't know if anybody has any questions for him.
that? Not adding anything, so
No.
as long as we can, it's already this long.
No. I sent in a couple of notes to yours.
30 by 20.
Put it in the next meeting. Parade requests, I think that the procedure is you can sort of approve that.
No, it's just, this is for the information of council, but I've already approved it
Yeah.
and sent it. But according to our procedure, I have to let the council.
Okay, let's move ourselves in. There's no more citizen. Oh, yeah, geez, I almost forgot about that. Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Allen, whereas the Paul Christian Fellowship submitted a variation application 2025-04 with regard to the variation of the front yard and parking spots. And whereas the public hearing occurred on April 28th, 2025, therefore be resolved that council approve variation application 2025-04 submitted by the Paul Friendship Center, Paul Christian Fellowship Center, located at 440 Rose Avenue, lot 40, lot 4/5, block 14, plan 587.
Is there any further questions with this from the public hearing earlier tonight? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, none, carried. Okay, now we can get into committee of the whole.
Resolved that we now do move ourselves into the committee of the whole with Mayor Murphy and the chair to discuss matters requiring our attention.
Okay, right down to 4.2.1, it's an animated sign proposal from Public Works on the amendment. Any comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, so we'll have a resolution at the next council meeting, recommending this.
I just want to point out, if we're moving ahead with this, that means that sign comes down, right? Based on the information provided.
So when we drafted, this language, we're trying not to suggest that what he has would fit specifically into the bylaw. We wanted to, we have to still vary the sign once the process is complete, because for all intents and purposes, there's not a lot of buildings in our community that a sign of that size would make any sense on. So to make the bylaw that if you were to put a sign up that big, we would just be happy with it anywhere, I don't think is fair. And so we wanted to look at it as a case by case basis. So if this passes, then that sign would have to vary, but we didn't want to tailor the bylaw for that sign. Yeah.
Oh. Sounds good. So can you make sure though, once we pass this, that we get the variance request as soon as possible so that we can get that out of the way as well?
Yeah.
So how do we skirt the one area that I did bring up to you and we talked, you were waiting to get an answer from Brett Mack relating to it, not permitted. That means we shouldn't even really consider a variation when it says not permitted. It doesn't say we'll look at it. It's kind of like saying don't even consider it in this area because it's saying it's not permitted in that area. How do you get around that in a variation if it's in the bylaw saying it's not permitted? remove not permitted of bylaw and make an adjustment. That's kind of what I'm getting at is the language is proper as far as I'm concerned. But if it's saying not permitted, then a variation shouldn't even be considered for it, right?
The amendment of the bylaw.
Sorry, can you, what specific the non-permitted?
So this is in your sign requirement table.
Yeah.
Additional conditions, not permitted in a yard, in a required yard abutting residential zones.
Yeah, so that's not, on the building is not a required yard. The required yard is the side yard between, we got that
No matter
clarification.
what,
We got that clarification from,
So-
the planning branch, yes.
Brett said that that's not considered.
He said our understanding of the definition is correct, so if you were to erect a freestanding sign.
Yeah.
With an animated sign between the arena and let's say, I think it's Verandre, that would be not allowed, yes, if it was freestanding by itself. In a required yard, the definition of required yard, we confer with Mr. Mack, thank you for bringing that back, yeah, was that would be a freestanding sign, not affixed to it.
So what changes the yard, whether it's on the building or freestanding? I can understand the understanding of what the yard is. But if that property is in the yard and you have a massive sign attached to it, that yard is classified as institutional or public, whatever it is right now. And it's abutting another yard, which is, so
That's a
I'm
good-
just curious.
That's a good question.
How they come to that.
I don't understand, I don't know how, the planning branch came up with that definition, how they parsed it. But we asked them specifically for that clarification. To us that, yeah, that's, I think I was supposed to get back to it, but so I apologize.
We weren't going to get back to me, it was just something that
Yeah.
was definitely a
Yeah, but you
discussion.
did brought that
At
up.
the end of the day, we want to be able to have animated signs, and we want that sign to stay on that building. I think that's what council is saying, but we just gotta make sure we're following the rules, that's all.
And will the 6-second hold time be part of that requirement? Because again, that's part of the additional agreement. Or is that being removed?
So what is
I'm not
it?
trying to, it says again, images must have a minimum hold time of 6 seconds.
Remove that.
And again, we're kind of creating a bylaw.
No, but I mean, I think, I look at it as the round, like you go into the cities and you go into they got these things that are running all the time, there's videos and just do what they do.
But you won't find them in residential areas, right?
No, I know, but I know we have this one special situation, but I think it actually adds to our community, and if we can actually expand off of that, that would be a great.
What I would recommend then as an amendment to that is during the evening hour, like late hours, after hours kind of thing, like after 10 PM or something like that then it would resort and not have the big busyness of a signage, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you can do that, I don't.
Easily could.
Okay.
Just to ensure that the sign can stay and fills the need, but after 11 or 12 o'clock at night, who's looking at that sign besides?
Exactly,
People that
so
should be
what
out
does
there.
it matter?
Right, but then it's flashing in the windows of people at Kincourt, that's what I'm getting, it becomes a busy distraction. So,
Okay, we'll look for some more clarity, I guess you understand what we're looking for there, but
Yeah.
hopefully we can get this to the next
Just
council.
ask Brett for the clarification.
It's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, sorry, I didn't see this on the list, community cleanup, we've sort of talked about that.
Yes. We'll come up with the date. I'll send you the date.
So, before you leave, we'll need the community cleanup, won't we need a resolution to provide free landfill and all that stuff, and you need to coordinate that, pick up and all that.
The bylaw, the waste bylaw allows me to, authorize that. Obviously, I would send you guys.
Yeah, but would we put out a communication to say, you know, this is cleanup week, so there's free, and if you need something picked up, our staff will be around this day.
Oh, we're talking about an entire.
RVs, we don't do, bulk item pickups and pickups.
You advertise
Like, with the three RVs.
in the paper.
But not bulk items and stuff, so, 'cause I think before months, yeah, you guys had requested me to sort of free landfill day for the following. For everything,
This weekend.
if you guys wanted to do something like that, this would, go in your, photo too.
Well, I think that's what when we're talking about community cleanup, that's my vision, not only we pick up all the garbage in town, but we let people get their yards cleaned out and let them get the stuff that we need to the dump and don't penalize them for it, so that it doesn't pile up in their backyard. I think working with Mike and keeping the pressure on these guys that have 8 broken down cars in their front yard and sort of pushing that at the same time during cleanup week and identifying all these properties that are,
I think what Sam was saying, the town just won't be picking those sort of things.
yeah, no, not cars and stuff.
But I think, yeah, if you, whatever you guys define what you want, just please let us know and we'll be happy to execute.
That will come up with the body, then I'll send it to council. If you are okay with what is.
Whatever we
What
had
did we
last
do
year.
last year and the year before and the year before? Exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along here, fire service mutual aid agreement, any concerns?
Yes.
I guess we didn't have one of those before.
This is between Town of the Park and OCN, is a requirement, and we have to sign these, but I want the council to see it if you are okay with this agreement before.
How did this come about? Like, did we ask for this, Byron, or?
So this was actually in the Firewise report
Mhm.
to come up with the mutual aid agreement with OCN. Because at the time, there wasn't actually one in place with OCN, so when they come and help us and we help them, there was nothing written in a contract or an agreement.
Is OCN's fine with it as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see any. Replies to that. Okay, any other questions on that? So we need a resolution the next meeting to sign that. Command one. What I said earlier to the special service levy or the Airbnb guys, I'm a bit of a hard no on this. But I don't have all the details, so why would we spend? Like how, if we spend the 6,000 like we said, I don't know why we wouldn't get a little bit more life out of that. Is it worth the 6 years or the 2 more years or 3 more years, or like, what's the story?
So the catalytic converter for bank 1, 3, 5, and 7 has failed. It's plugged up. We tried changing the oxygen sensor to see if that would eliminate the issue. It didn't, it popped back up the next day. Got it scanned again, yeah. The mechanic said, no, it is the catalytic converter. So price just on the parts is, I think, 4,000. Just for the converter.
I would, just my opinion, I mean, let's say we spend 6. We get 6 months out of it, and then at the end of 20, but right now we know it's gonna cost 6, keep it on the road, keep it safe.
I support that as well.
Just do that, and if the other side goes, then we'll have to cross the bridge we come, maybe we'll have to go to Alexander's, to use one or something. Just,
Yeah, the other part is, there are parts on the code, which I don't think were attached on that too. There's some parts that are unknown ETA, so they don't know when they'll be able to get the parts in. They're out of stock, so that's something we'll have to talk with Chev about. I talked with the mechanics today to see if we could do it at the town yard, like our mechanics do it. And they said he's done it on older vehicles, but not newer ones, and he feels their welder will burn a hole through the pipe. So we wouldn't recommend doing it himself.
I think what council is saying is that let's pay the $6,000 to get it fixed. Hopefully we get a couple more years out of it. We should be budgeting for these replacements anyways, like we are. And if all heck breaks out and we are in a pickle here in 6 or 7 months from now, let's cross that bridge as we see then. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. Agreements on the operating agreements for community safety officers. I don't think there's any really changes there, so we just sign off on that.
You've added more to their responsibility if you read the new agreement. So we sign it, okay?
Yeah, I don't see any, I don't like, unless you're telling us there's something,
Okay.
as Cause I didn't lay the two agreements out beside each other and try to figure out where the changes were, so.
Yeah, it's quite helpful with the other ones where they.
What I highlighted in green, that was,
That was
yeah.
my fault. It's hard to compare between the two, you, what's what.
Okay, next time I'll do that, so.
Well, I just, or just summarize it, but I don't think you're recommending that it be
We
signed.
sign, yes, because
Yeah.
we have to sign it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a requirement from the province. So I want 3 councillors, mayor, if you check page 16.
Yeah, no, we'll sign it. Just bring it, to our next meeting. I don't see any issues with that. And the last thing we had is we got 2 items in camera. I don't think there's any personnel issues that we need to talk about, so with that, we will move to the in-camera portion.
Resolved that we do now move ourselves into the in-camera portion of committee. Oh. Yes, up to the end of the whole.